I recently found the folder and it's pure gold. I mean, just
someone needs to leak this.
The teenage angst is just seeping through. Shall we do our usual thing? Recount our failures and triumphs of the week?
Go on then. Do you want me to start this time?
You can start if you want.
Yeah, okay. I have a sustainable trying to be a win, but it's kind of a fail. So I've bought my first bike, which is really cute. It's a foldable one because I live in a little flat. It's just for commuting and kind of going shopping and stuff. In the UK at the moment, fuel prices are stupid high. I haven't got a car at the moment, and obviously it just kind of makes sense from a sustainability point of view. The only problem is I can't ride a bike, and I've never learned how to ride one.
Wait, you've never learned how to ride a bike?
So kudos to my dad. He tried to teach me and I was just a pain when I was younger, so he kind of just gave up, and then I just never picked it up. And I'm starting to learn now and I'm kind of picking it up, but I was just thinking, why have I bought a bike when I can't ride it? So yeah, I'll update you in the next episode if I've learned, but I'm getting there. There's a lot of bruises on my legs at the moment, but I'm trying my best.
Oh, you should get those training wheels.
No, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that. I'm not
like that episode of Friends where Phoebe rides the bike with the training
with the
wheels.
Tassels. I might get some tassels. Oh god, that's a new low for me. I'm trying my best, even if it means I'm falling off a lot and getting very bruised. But there you go. I'm trying. I think that's the whole concept of this podcast is I'm trying.
Fair play to you. I mean, I can ride a bike. It's just
rub it in my face.
It's just been a very long time. And also, I myself do not trust myself on any form of moving vehicle. I am very I just feel like I'm a danger to everyone. So I haven't ridden a bike. I'm a walker. I walk everywhere.
So
if you see matter Marie, if it takes 20 minutes or an hour.
If you see Marie on any sort of vehicle, get out the way.
Duck. Get away.
Brilliant. Okay then, make me feel better. What have you done this week?
I decided to actually talk about an eco win. At first was an eco fail, but because today's going to be a bit of a nerdy episode, I'm just going to gush about of how much I love my e-reader, because I love this thing. This is the most expensive thing I've ever bought for myself. And it was a bit of a fail at first because essentially spent one whole month researching which e-reader to get and which one is the best option. Kind of drove my family crazy. Everyone was just just buy one. Just buy one. I was like, no, I need to research. I want to know where this comes from, who makes it, what the manufacturer is, which is the most eco-friendly option. And that's the type of person I am. And so I did 1 month of research. I got my e-reader. I was really happy with it. And then I noticed that the screen had a little crack in it.
Oh no.
It broke my heart. And because it was the most expensive thing I bought in a very long time, I was debating because I was shall I send it back? Now I did try and get this e-reader from somewhere else, but in the end I did have to buy it from Amazon. And the thing is, if you return something to Amazon, it does not go directly to Amazon. It goes to a liquidation center and it either gets landfilled or auctioned off in big crates. So knowing that, I'm okay, if I return this, that's another big carbon footprint. But it really bothered me that I paid full price. So for the following week, I tried everything. I tried calling Amazon customer service. I tried calling the store it actually came from, saying, listen, I'm happy to keep this as long as you give me a discount, because I'm not happy that I paid full price for a faulty product.
Yeah, that's good going. Fair enough.
Unfortunately, it did not work. Everyone was just saying, no, you need to send it back. And then eventually I did send it back and I felt really bad for it. And I honestly, this is the type of person I am. I had so many sleepless nights about this.
Oh,
I knew what would happen if I returned it. But of course I paid full price and I wanted a good quality product. Also, this e-reader is waterproof. And one thing that thought, there's already a crack in the screen. How waterproof is it? And trust me, I need waterproof stuff in my life. I spill stuff all the time.
From a sustainability point of view, this is something you want to look after and keep. So actually, it probably maybe weighs it out You want something that's,
perfect from the beginning.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, anyway, I had to send it back. I got my new one, and now it's been over a year, and it's still one of the best purchases I've ever made. Also increased my reading. I've read so many books in the last year because it's just so easy. In the end, it turned out to be a good purchase, but
after all of that,
it did cause me a lot of stress.
But from a marketing point of view, you're like a nightmare consumer. Just getting you to convert to buy.
You mean just getting me to buy something?
It took you a month to decide to buy something, and in marketing you try and get them to buy within like a matter of days or a week, and you're spending a whole month. Oh dear. So Marie, what are we talking about today? What's going on?
Today we thought we would do a bit of a fun episode, a bit of a different one. You may not believe it, but me and Beth have other interests outside of sustainability.
I know, right?
I know. Shocker. And when we're not talking about sustainability, we spend most of our time talking about all things nerd. In fact, the only noise complaint me and Beth ever got when we lived at university together was for watching anime too loudly in the kitchen.
I feel like you've just outed me.
The noise complaint was not directed at the volume of the anime. It was directed at our screams, because apparently we were screaming way too loudly.
Just don't ask why. Don't ask why. We're just that cool.
We're just that awesome. These days, being nerdy, day I say it, it's considered cool.
Oh, it's a lot cooler than it used to be, definitely.
Yeah, unlike when we were at school, like I was definitely the odd one out in my like superhero t-shirt.
I was bullied.
Carrying comic books everywhere. It is also a lot more easier. Like buying stuff for your favorite franchises is just a lot more accessible, and it's also a lot more easier to watch. For example, watching anime is a lot more easier than when we were in school. There's a lot of streaming sites and not very dodgy websites that we use.
Or YouTube in 49 parts.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Two Girls, One Reusable Cup, your sustainable support group, where we navigate the calamities and curiosities of living a low-waste lifestyle. I'm Marie. As always, I'm joined by the lovely Beth.
Hey.
I have bought multiple merch from various different franchises over the years, and I attend Comic-Con on a yearly basis before the human malware hit. So the question we are asking ourselves today, is it possible to show our nerdiness and love for a particular franchise without engaging in extreme consumerism?
This is such a good question, and I was saying to you before, it's not talked about. Sustainability and fandoms and being a fan is never in the same sentence. They're two separate things. Being a fan is almost complete consumerism, and I know it's difficult for us because it's kind of two of our passions and they don't seem to overlap, which is really annoying.
Yeah, as in terms of like consumerism, I kind of like put them into different boxes at first. I was just like, oh, I'm not going to buy fast fashion, but fast fashion that has my favorite superhero character on it. Oh, yes.
That's completely different. It's fine.
Completely different, which it's not. But honestly, because I just love something so much, generally that's when like the shades go on, and I don't think, oh, where did this come from?
I think as well, it's a way of one showing you support, you like that thing, but also supporting it. So I feel like we're mostly going to be talking about like the comic-y kind of side of being a fan, but there's also things like being a fan of a band, and to support the band, a big part of it is merchandise. So it's it's two things really. So yeah, it makes it very difficult not to consume when you do really like something.
It is. So what franchise have you spent the most money on?
All of them. So we've kind of said, Marie kindly outed me before that I am very into anime. I have been for a long time, but I think at the moment one of my biggest things is Star Wars. I love Star Wars so much, and obviously there's loads of new stuff coming out for Star Wars at the moment. Mandalorian, Kenobi, and actually me and my boyfriend really like Lego Star Wars, so we collect the Lego and we have it on display. We like it as a display piece. Some may say we have a bit too much Lego, but Henry would say otherwise. So yeah, I'd say Star Wars for me is my biggest fandom. How about you?
Yeah, I think for me, it is definitely for like the most consistent, it is Batman. I've always been a DC Comics fan, and Batman has been like my number one superhero for the longest time ever. And I think it is kind of closely like, as in terms of like money though, I think it is closely tied with Harry Potter, because I did the Harry Potter studio tour and I don't consume Harry Potter products anymore. That is like the big one, I think, because that was like the biggest expense. But like most consistently, it's always been Batman. I mean, one of my favorite things that I own is my Batman onesie,
which you wore a lot at university, and I was gonna,
of course, yeah, like which is I fully admit from Primark, but at this point I think it must be over like almost a decade old.
Yeah, you never had that off.
Yeah, it's like I bought it even in the boys section, because the girls section didn't have any Batman onesies. So, you know, take that, because apparently girls do not like superheroes. So I did buy it in the boys section, but that means it's also like extra baggy. And I bought it because we were going for a camping trip as a school. And I knew I needed something warm. Like I knew I needed something warm because we were going to like the Irish countryside and hiking in the middle of nowhere. And I was just like,
so there was just everyone else in like their hiking gear, and then you just walking with your Batman onesie on. That's amazing. Yeah. If you've got any pictures of that, I really want to see it.
I doubt it. I don't think I have a picture of that, but I did wear it to another camping trip when me and my university friends were working at a music festival. Used the term working loosely because we weren't paid. The last day of the music festival, it was like we had a pretty terrible time and I was just done. I wore the Batman onesie the entire last, and then on the bus on the way back, and then we had to walk into university to drop off our things, and I was just like in our university building in the Batman onesie, and I was just like, you know, like, and smelling of smoke as well, because the only source of heat at that festival was a campfire, so we literally lived next to that campfire. So I like smelling of smoke, hadn't showered in like 5 days, and it's
absolute
just
scenes.
like and just walking through, and like all the other years just looking at us like, what on earth happened there?
Amazing. So we've kind of touched upon cosplay and costumes, but when you're a nerd, what do you tend to buy? What's your outlet?
I mean, I think my current outlet is movies and TV shows.
Yeah, which I think a lot of people, that's what we're consuming.
Unfortunately, I cannot afford comic books at the moment. Definitely cannot afford manga. So like that is like my main outlet in going to the cinema. And then we are in the age of nerdiness. I mean, all the Disney Plus shows have just been amazing.
Yeah.
So those are like my two main ones. And of course, books. Let's not forget books, because like books are also considered
definitely
fairly nerdy.
I think that's the same for me. Is I consume a lot of TV, film, and then I love comics, manga, and books as well. That for me is like my outlet too.
Like as I said, being nerdy is now cool, and there is a lot of money in these franchises. And I was wondering, if you want to have a guess, which one is like the highest grossing franchise of all time, like the one that has made the most revenue over the years?
Oh, it's got to be Disney, surely. Because Disney own everything.
That is a valid guess. However, it is not.
Is it Twilight? No. I really hope it's not.
It's Pokemon.
Oh, no, I love Pokemon. I have a Game Boy Color with Pokemon Blue, and then when I had a Nintendo DS, which I had to sell to be able to afford accommodation at university, really sad, that had Soul Silver on it. That makes a lot of sense.
Pokemon is $110 billion.
Wow.
Of total revenue over the years. And I mean, like, Pokemon is quite old, so it does make sense.
So what you're saying is we should have Pokemon themed solar panels and wind farms. That's the way how we get into renewable energy, is just stick Pikachu on it.
Oh yeah, to add popularity to it. I mean, I guess so. I mean, like, unfortunately, I have bought stuff where it's just my favorite character on it, even when it has nothing to do with it. But then, like, I've seen some extreme examples. I still remember when The Force Awakens came out, and there was just a group of tangerines, and it had the Star Wars logo on it, and like a picture of BB-8, and it was just
tangerines.
Like, exactly. It was just like, calm down, Disney. Tangerines have nothing to do with
leave the tangerines alone.
Because they were fairly orange Convention Circular. They were marketing them as BB-8 tangerines.
It's just no one asked for that. We don't need it. Oh dear.
And as I was looking this up, it actually surprised me that the second one was Hello Kitty.
Okay.
On the list. Which
I'm surprised. What's Marvel? Marvel surely is a big one. If I think of being a fan or a nerd or a fandom, I instantly think, other than Star Wars, Marvel.
The MCU's at number 8 with 38 billion. 25.174 billion of that is box office. 7.228 billion is merchandise sales.
That's still a really big amount.
There is a lot in merchandising,
and merchandising covers so much more than it used to. It used to be just like a mug or a t-shirt, and now I'm just reading your notes. You've put Spider-Man swim trunks, Hulk bedding. It covers absolutely, like we said, the tangerines, the merchandise fans. If it's a gift or a product, it can be made into merchandise now, apparently.
Yeah, so Forbes calculated from merchandise sales since 2010, Disney took in about 10 billion in licensing revenue from all the Marvel stuff. So it is a lot.
They're raking it in.
As I said, not innocent in all this. I have spent a lot. The first time I went to Comic-Con, I think I was 16. I went to Dublin Comic-Con. It was the first time Dublin hosted MCM Comic-Con, and I just went all out with the purchases. I still remember actually calling my mom and asking if I could have an advance in my allowance because I was spending that much money.
You were in debt at 16.
Yeah, I mean, I bought the usual convention Pocky that everyone buys when they go to conventions. In my opinion, since buying it in multiple conventions, it's actually not that good. I'm pretty sure it might be good in Japan, but once they've imported it all the way to Dublin, it does taste a bit funky. I bought a Harley and Joker print, which is still up at my dad's house, from a guy dressed as a Wookiee.
Amazing. That's all you could ever ask for.
Yeah, and we had a great convo. He gave me a hug and everything. Maybe a Sebastian plushie or a Grell plushie or both. I cannot remember. I do own them. I do not know where they came from. I'm thinking it's from this Comic-Con. I bought some Full Metal Alchemist jewelry, possibly more Black Butler stuff.
Basically, if you've, because I've also been to Comic-Con, I've been to London Comic-Con and Birmingham Comic-Con a few times back in my youth. And if you've never been, conventions, you usually have panels with speakers and celebrities at them. But actually, the majority of conventions are just stalls. It's such a money-making thing. And
especially MCM. And very targeted to buying stuff.
And if you go a few times, you kind of start to realize I've bought a ticket to come in here, and actually a lot of it is just stalls and it's all the same stuff. The artist alley is fantastic. That's where artists sell their prints and stuff. But otherwise it's
where I met the guy in the Wookiee costume.
Yeah, who sounds amazing. But otherwise it's all kind of the same stuff. It's a very money-making place. So we put our hands up and say we've experienced that.
Consumed. The last time I did go to Comic-Con, I don't think I bought a single thing. 2019, I think. But one of the reasons was that I spent most of the day in a queue because Sebastian Stan was there.
Time well spent, I say.
Yes, definitely. I mean, no, the thing is, Sebastian Stan was cool and it was amazing seeing him. But afterwards, we also left, got food, went back into the queue to see David Harbour from Stranger Things.
Oh, nice.
And he was the highlight. He was so funny, so charismatic.
He's brilliant. I love him.
Because he wasn't as popular as Sebastian Stan, we actually got really close. We were on the third row, so we actually got a really good view.
That's the best part of conventions, actually. It's not the buying. It's seeing your favorite celebrities, and also you connect with people, especially when you dress up. And actually cosplay is something me and Marie actually really enjoyed doing, and we'll probably do an episode on it. But you connect with people. You see people dressed as a character that you love from your favorite film or TV show, and you're like, oh my god, can I have a picture with you? It's amazing. It's all about connecting with people. It's lovely.
Yeah, and it's also, I think, depends on how you want to spend it. If you do want to go there just to buy merchandise, I mean, fair enough. My favorite element, as Beth says, it is meeting fans, especially if you're in cosplay, because you meet someone who loves the show as much as you do, and just seeing your favorite superhero or celebrity. I mean, I saw Sebastian Stan and David Harbour was really cool, but the highlight of my entire life was seeing Kevin Conroy, who's the voice of Batman in the Batman the Animated Series.
Oh, amazing.
And he, of course, did the Batman voice and just chills. came down. Like I was just this
That
guy
is the
was
best
like,
part,
is my
isn't it?
idol.
Yeah.
I mean, I grew up watching the Batman the animated series. It is still my one of my all-time favorite Batman incarnations. Kevin Conroy is my favorite Batman, and he was just incredible.
That's kind of what we're going to discuss today, is how do you enjoy being a fan of something without having a massive impact on the planet through consuming. So I think, Maria, can you give like some examples of, maybe we could look at one type of merchandise that's really associated with being a fan and kind of look at maybe the impact of it, for example.
Yeah, because like we were discussing, we obviously wanted to do this episode and we want to like throw some facts in there. We don't want to gush about comics for the last
which we
hour.
could do, but that would be a different podcast. Two
But,
girls, one fandom.
Yeah, I mean,
two girls,
that could be our
many
sequel
fandoms.
Series. Many fandoms, exactly. But when I started like thinking like what is the most popular like merch currently out there, like the number one thing that came up in my mind was Funko Pops.
Yeah, me too. And I think you're seeing them more everywhere. They're really accessible because they cover so many different TV shows, movies, everything. So even if you don't consider yourself a big nerd, then you'll probably find a character that you like within the massive Funko Pop collection.
They currently have 8,000 plus characters.
The official Funko Pop motto is everyone is a fan of something. It's not just comic book characters. It's like anything from pop culture. It's TV shows. Like I know they have ones for The Office. I think Friends has Funko Pops as well. So I don't know about you, but I just remember them suddenly popping up. Pardon the pun. And suddenly just being everywhere. Like suddenly they were just everywhere in the nerd sphere. And it's just like suddenly one day they were just bam there. I kind of did like a bit of a very scientific Google Trend search just to like give us an idea of when they really hit popularity, because the company originally debuted in 2010. But like when I looked at the Google Trend spikes, they only like started gaining popularity in like around summer of 2014. Since then, they've just been rising in popularity. I mean, just so many people own them. At Comic-Con, there's always a Funko Pop stand, and like some people pay early entry to get into the con just so they can get exclusive Funkos. The company has grown and grown. In 2018, the company's net sales increased by 33% to 686.1 million, with the figures accounting for 82% of those sales. And it's just, I think what makes them so, as Beth said, accessible, it's like you can buy them everywhere. It's like collecting without the challenge, unless you really want to get a limited edition one. Like I am in a village in the Portuguese countryside in the middle of nowhere, and there's still a store that sells Funko Pops here.
Brilliant. Thank God you get your Funko Pop fixed.
When I looked into this, I found this out. So when the very disappointing Game of Thrones final season aired, I'm still not over that, the company worked directly with HBO after each episode to get the Funkos from concept to pre-sale as quickly as possible. And that kind of like really astounded me, because this model of from conception to sale, there's another model that sounds very familiar to that, and that is fast fashion.
Yeah, fast fandom.
Exactly, fast fandom. And the more I looked into this, it's like, this is really the fast fashion model. Now, it's still a bit slowed down. The company boasts that a pop can be designed and submitted to the licensor in under 24 hours, molded into a prototype in 45 days, and sourced from Asian facilities while maintaining a high quality control in just 15 days.
That's not natural at all. That's kind of unbelievable. That is essentially fast fashion.
The thing is, one thing that speaks to them, unlike fast fashion, is that pops are quite sturdy. They are actually quite good quality, because just the design of them makes them really sturdy. So they do, I think, last a very long time. And also, well, many people don't even take them out of the box. So from a design perspective, they have like a model that can be easily replicated throughout.
Yeah, they're very
franchises.
simple, really. They're for a very simple kind of aesthetic, really.
Also, I think one of the reasons, the ones that I have, is because they cover such a variety of franchises. Like sometimes the only time when you want something from a particular fandom, the only option is to get a Funko Pop.
Yeah, and they're easy gifts, aren't they? I feel like they're a bit of a cop-out. It's like, they're
default nerd gift, yeah.
Or like you said, anyone who's not necessarily a nerd, if they really like a character from The Office, you're like, I've got to get them a Funko Pop. Easy, done. A lot of people resort them as gifts. And I guess people do collect them and keep them, but I think the big question here, which covers a lot of what we talk about, is what if when you move on from that fandom, when you maybe it was a phase, mom, and you like something else, or you just don't relate to it anymore. Like a lot of the stuff I liked as a teenager, I still kind of like, but I'm not as big into. So like if I still had merchandise from it, I probably wouldn't use it or have it on display. And I think that is a massive problem when you buy things as gifts for people who like that character now. It's like an inside joke, it's like a now thing. What do they do with it when they're not a fan of it anymore? Like something, can they be recycled, for example? What do you do with them?
That is like a very good question, and I did look into this. The thing is, Funko Pops are plastic, they're vinyl, they're made from PVC, and this really depends on your local recycling facility if they recycle PVC or not. So it really depends on where you live or where you're located. But as in terms of easy to recycle, it definitely isn't, because you have to check with your local recycling facility. I guess you can like pass it on as a gift, but like when I was researching this, I was seeing like photos of people who literally had a whole room dedicated to just Funko Pops.
Yeah.
That is
the serial collectors. Yeah.
Also just the money involved, because one of the arguments I had written down towards Funko Pops, it's just like it makes being a nerd cheap and easy to accessible. But I was just like, oh, hang on, that's fast fashion again.
Yeah.
Like
everything is
stylish,
fast
easy,
fashion.
and accessible.
Yeah, they're not in the same conversation at all. It's like sustainability is over here, and then being a fan and merchandise is in its own other bubble. There's a big conversation at the moment, obviously, on fashion being more sustainable. But I even, when we were going to do this episode, I typed in like sustainable Star Wars merch or just sustainable merch, and nothing came up. There is nothing, it just kind of shows that they're not in the same conversation at the moment. I'm really glad we're talking about it. Marie's done an amazing job researching all of this, because there's actually not a lot kind of out there because people aren't talking about it. But I imagine that fandoms produce a lot of waste, because like we said, what do you do with all these things when you don't want them? Like you donate them, and the charity shops and secondhand shop overloaded with stuff. It must contribute quite a lot of waste, definitely.
Yeah, for sure. And as I said, there are no statistics on this, so I do not actually know how so this is just anecdotal evidence, but just being a fan, both of us being fans and just accumulating all this stuff over the years, it does kind of like dawn on you like, hang on, where is all this going to go?
Yeah.
I just wanted to say my secret strategy is turning my cousin's kids into nerds.
That is a really good idea.
The first thing I did when baby girl was born, I bought her a Batman onesie, and then that's been passed on to the other kids. The oldest boy, I've already indoctrinated a very long time ago, but I was very proud when I saw a photo of their last year's Halloween costume where one of them was dressed as Charmander and the other one was dressed as Squirtle. People there who can inherit all my like nerdy stuff. So that's
That's
secret
hilarious.
strategy.
Just force people. So as we've said, we've put our hands up and we've said, we're nerds. We have consumed merchandise. Maybe now we're a bit more aware of what we consume. How do you be a fan and still show you're a fan and support these fandoms? We can't just say you're not allowed to buy all this merchandise because it's bad for the planet. That's not fair. You should partake in being a fan. But maybe, Marie, I think you've done some research into ways that you can do it in a slightly more conscious way.
Yeah, I mean, like any form of consumerism is consumerism. You're buying a product and that product is in your life forever. But I just looked at other ways that you can let your nerd flag fly, which doesn't support a big corporation that is polluting the environment or it's to overconsumption. And I looked at some interesting ways we could do it. And one of the first ones is Kickstarter.
Oh, I love Kickstarter.
Yeah, so I think Kickstarter is a great way to support the artist directly and getting a product from creator to consumer by cutting out the middleman. Have you ever supported a Kickstarter?
I have actually. Usually they're charity based or they're people I know raising money for something.
My most recent support was backing author Brandon Sanderson's project, who recently made headlines with his Kickstarter, who used Kickstarter to release 4 possibly 5 secret novels he wrote in the last 2 years. The man is a machine and is completely insane. The Kickstarter was over $41 million, which is absolutely insane. I think their original goal was 1 million and they completely surpassed it. It had about 185,341 backers. And as I said, I was one of them. And he is calling it the Year of Sanderson.
Brilliant. Love that. Take ownership.
And one of the reasons I believe he said he wanted to do this is to offer an alternative to Amazon when it comes to buying books.
That's a brilliant idea. And I think you've kind of just shown there why Kickstarter is brilliant for especially creatives, authors, artists, like music producers, people creating things. And it also creates a community, I think, more so than you buying merchandise and then the author or creator not knowing that you've bought the merchandise. There's a lot more connection made here.
Yeah, exactly. And you know exactly who are you backing and like where your money is going to. So I think that is just a really thing, especially with this one, it broke records. So that's also like a really cool thing to be a part of. Like just like because it's like a tiny bit of history and pop culture and like especially in the world of fantasy publishing. So I thought that was really cool. Webcomics is also another big one. And
I love webcomics. I saw this in the notes and I was like, oh yes. I'm so glad we're talking about webcomics. They're brilliant.
Yeah, and they're great. And some of them like first start off on a free platform such as DeviantArt or Tumblr and then like get published throughout Kickstarter.
Yeah.
And I think it's just another one. I think one of the main ones is Heartstoppers.
I love Heartstopper. It's brilliant. It's on I don't know if anyone uses Webtoon. It's an app where creators publish their own comics, mangas, and actually like Marie said, Heartstopper's on there. There's some other really big names on there. Another one is True Beauty, which is a Korean series, and it's completely free. It's just a brilliant way to support creators. I'm a very big fan of Webtoon. If Webtoon want to sponsor me, then they can. I'm all for it.
And like I think we both like mentioned before, like me and Beth are artists. It's not the field that we're working in at this current moment, but it is like a passion of ours. So like we will always shout out and say like tell people to support independent artists. And like a big one we already mentioned earlier is Artist Alley at conventions.
Yes,
that's like my go-to for conventions. I have bought so much amazing artwork from people, and just like independent artists in general you can find on the internet and commission a piece. You can ask them to draw you something. Obviously pay them. Never expect like an artist like on Instagram to like draw you something for free. Please support the arts. But I think that's another great way to commission an artwork either for you or for a friend as a gift.
I think actually like Marie said, the Artist Alley is probably my highlight of a convention. I don't usually actually buy a lot of stuff. I love walking through studio spaces and looking at art and being inspired and talking to artists as a fellow artist to find out what inspires them and what their processes are. It's that connection again. It's a brilliant thing to go and support. And a lot of these artists, that's their livelihood, and it means so much to them when you support them and buy their stuff. It's a far better alternative. If you have to buy something, you want to support fandom, is to go through independent.
Yeah, and then the last big one is Etsy, obviously. Like
yes.
You can find some great stuff on Etsy, and again another great way to support artists and just craftsmen in general. But when it comes to like technically unofficial merch, Etsy is also a good start. I found some great stuff. I once found a chocolate Death Star on there.
That's amazing. See, some of the unofficial merch is actually better than the real merch, and you can find stuff on there that actually isn't currently on the market, like a chocolate Death Star. Why would you not want one of them? That's amazing. Something that my friend did, which I thought was really clever, is she went on Etsy and bought, the iron-on patches for people who can't sew. Well, she ironed that onto a secondhand jumper, which can be also taken off. So that's a really nice way of showing you're part of a fandom without buying into it. You've supported an independent, and then you've ironed it on and personalized it, and they can be put on loads of things. My boyfriend's really into The Walking Dead, and I got him a little Daryl Dixon patch that I ironed on to a bag or he's got a bow and arrow bag, so I put it on there, which was really sweet, and he'll keep that and look after it. So there's kind of thrifty ways you can do it. And yeah, I really like Etsy. I think you can get something quite bespoke on there that you won't find in the market. And actually, if you gift that to someone, they're probably more likely to keep it because it's unique rather than mass produced.
Exactly. It's something special that probably not many people have. So
definitely that's the allure of it completely.
Mm-hmm.
So if you really don't want to buy things, even if you go through independent sellers and stuff, is there another way you can still be nerdy?
One way, I do understand that this is not accessible to everyone because not as everyone is crafty or knows how to sew, but making your own merch is another option. Our first Harry Potter robe, which it was my brother's and then it got passed down to me, was sewn by our aunt because at the time when we first started reading the books, the movies weren't out yet and there was hardly any merch. So she made us our first ever Hogwarts robe, and it actually says Roxfort on it instead of Hogwarts because that's the
sweet
Hungarian name of Hogwarts. That's really cute. And then that got passed on to our cousins as well. But I was also thinking this is what a lot of people do before a franchise becomes popular.
Obviously, Pinterest, the internet is just an amazing place to find all these DIYs if you do want to get a bit crafty.
Pinterest is amazing for nerdy DIYs, yeah.
So is there any other ways of doing it without spending money?
There are. I mean, I think there's of course, the whole community element of it, and you don't have to spend money to be part of a community.
Yeah.
I mean, one nerdy outlet that I've recently have gotten into is Twitch in the last few years when we weren't able to leave our homes. Twitch is owned by Amazon. I do want to point that out. It is just such a fun I've had so much fun time on a Twitch stream. And as I was researching this, I had a Twitch stream on in the background. So it's just constantly on there, just hanging out with creators and chatting with hosts. And one of my all-time favorite things that I did last year was when the Wheel of Time series was coming out, which was produced by Amazon, which meant that you could stream it on Twitch as a watch party. And we had just so much fun at Wheel of Time watch parties because it was just great to share theories or compare notes and point something out that the other person may have missed. And of course, all of this is happening in real time in the chats where you're chatting and interacting with people. And it's just, I think, a very great way to let your nerd flag fly.
That's the best part of consuming media, is having someone next to you to rant about and react to. Being a fan is very much a community thing, and that is the best part of it. It's not having the merchandise, it's connecting with people, reacting with people, sharing memes from your fandom that only certain people understand. Yeah, and Twitch, like you said, is an amazing example of that. And a big thing that's kind of shone through for me is fan fiction, because back in the day, and probably still now, I love a bit of fan fiction. I think it's brilliant, and it has a bad rep, and it shouldn't, because it's essentially writers. And a lot of these writers writing fan fiction are incredibly talented, and you really get consumed in what they've put out there. So actually reading fan fiction, giving kudos, supporting the author is an amazing way that you can be a fan, support a fandom, and feel like you're part of a community.
Yeah, I mean, I used to write fan fiction.
Oh, here we go. It's all coming out in this episode.
Yeah, no one is ever going to see the light of day, but it is something like me and my friend did. And in the end, we ended up with over 100-page fan fiction.
Wow.
Most of it we hand wrote. And it's just one of those things we still look back on a little bit cringy, but also quite fondly, because I now do a lot of writing in my professional life, not nerd related and usually not even fiction related. But I would have never been able to do that without the confidence that I got from writing fan fiction. I think I've only ever published one fan fiction in my entire life on fanfiction.net. Mainly it was just something I shared between me and my friend. I recently found the folder and it's pure gold. I mean, just
someone needs to leak this.
The teenage angst is just seeping through.
Yeah.
It's just
and the same with fan art as well. It's an amazing creative outlet. That's kind of how you connect with people as well.
I do want to point out, me and Beth are adults. Please be careful to people like who you talk to on the internet. So one thing we are talking a lot about online communities. Please be careful. Do not share any private information about yourself, especially if you're underage. I do feel like I do need to point that out.
I think from a sustainability point of view as well, we should also point out that even though this is probably better than buying merchandise, there's obviously a carbon footprint attached to using the internet, using computers, using electronics. Obviously, like, I don't have the facts in front of me, but from an educated guess, I'm guessing that's a lot better than buying something.
Yeah, when it comes to carbon footprint and the internet, that is a tricky thing.
Marie, you've got a brilliant last little tip on this list, which is...
I mean, this is one that you and I both have done.
Yes.
Because said anime that we were watching in that kitchen was stolen from your sister.
Yeah.
So, like, my other
Steal
advice
from
is
your
sibling.
We're not saying go steal, by the way, but yeah, if your siblings have some merch, just take it. Why not?
Yeah, I mean, my brother was the original like Harry Potter fan, and he had all the Harry Potter merch because we had bunk beds growing up, and then there was the space between the wall and the bunk bed where he like put a curtain, and behind his curtain was all his Harry Potter merch, and I was not allowed to go in there. It was the Harry Potter corner. I did sneak in there. Like, you can't tell like a child not to go in somewhere. Of course I'm going to go in there.
Did you monetize it, like sell tickets to go see it? Everyone roll up, come see the Harry Potter corner.
No, but I did like sneak in and everything like that. And then when he grew out of it, I of course inherited all of that. It not directly, like it was all just like packed away. He packed away the Harry Potter corner one time, and then like when I finally got my own bedroom, I found all the stuff, and I was just like, you know what, I'm taking all this.
Yeah, why not?
But
it's passing things down, isn't it? It's not just for clothes, it can be for nerdy stuff as well.
one thing that we can argue towards like this kind of when people like have their room full of Funko Pop or they're like very mint condition sealed comics, they say, oh, it's a collector's item. This is like towards a future.
Yeah.
I'm going to like buy a house with this one day. Another like thing like people say, oh, it's like, oh, no, this is not merch. It's a collector's item.
Yeah.
A very fine line. Back to the Funko Pops. When it comes to sales, collectors make about 36% of Funko Pop sales, while around 31% is just like occasional buyers.
Yeah.
And I think another thing that a lot of people have heard of these stories of where people have discovered like an old comic book in their attic when they were like cleaning out their grandmother's attic, and they found like this really valuable comic book, and now suddenly they became millionaires.
Oh, I wish. Being a nerd is profitable. Yay!
Exactly. Those instances are very, very rare. I mean, there are some like really expensive comic books out there. Detective Comics' first appearance of Batman that came out in 1939, which is valued at around $1 million.
Bet you wish that was in your attic.
Exactly. If you find that in the attic, sell it. I mean, I'm a fan, but I would not keep it. Action Comics, which had the first appearance of Superman, is valued around $3.18 million, the most expensive comic of all time.
I think I was telling you actually that my grandma actually worked printing the first issues of Superman, Batman, DC Comics, and she regrets to this day that she didn't keep one, because obviously, like you've just said, it's worth a lot of money. They're the ones that you want. They are the collector's items.
They are the collector's items, but there's a very good reason for that. So Action Comics, first appearance of Superman, I think there's currently only like 50 issues in existence currently. The reason these comics are valued so high is because of the Second World War. Because resources were so scarce, paper rationing was introduced, and people donated all forms of paper, which included comic books.
Yeah.
So these comics physically do not exist. They were all recycled during this time. But people still, I think there's this like misconception that comics are still valued quite a bit. I still remember when the New 52 came out, which is absolute shit. And I remember seeing a video of someone coming back from the comic book store, and he's like, okay, so I just bought 3 issues of the first one to read, one to put in like a sealed sleeve, and the other one to put in a safe for safekeeping. And I think you kind of see a problem with this. And in fact, this actually caused a very big problem in the 90s that almost led to the complete destruction of the comic book industry. So, because what happened was people kept hearing all these stories about these comic books from the 40s being really expensive. So whenever like a big issue came out, they went to the comic book store and they bought multiple issues. However, because it was comic book sales were up, the publisher just printed more to meet demand.
And demand's the big buzzword here.
Demand, exactly. The more in demand, the less valuable it was. So suddenly people couldn't sell their issue because everyone else had 3 issues. Like there was no point. Then, of course, comic readers caught on to this and stopped buying multiple issues. However, the publishers still kept printing multiple issues, which meant that they were losing money. The conclusion is, think about this. Overconsumption almost killed the comic book industry in the 90s. Like, that is an insane fact. When I found that out, I think that is just such an insane fact. And this can also show the consequences of overconsumption, not on an environmental scale, it's just like on an industrial scale, like almost completely killed the industry. Actually, Scott from NerdSync did a very good video about this a few years ago. I recommend checking that out. It's a collector's item, doesn't really hold up.
It's a myth. And that, what you've just said, really hit me, because when you think of being a fan, you think of overconsumption. You think it's good for the industry. You need people to keep buying merch. But no, nearly devoed the comic industry in the 90s, apparently. What should we end the episode on, Marie? How should we wind it down?
I think we covered a variety of like nerd topics, and I think now you guys know a little bit more about us. I think we just revealed true passions today. Like, it goes comic books and then sustainability. Like, it's like if you meet us in the street, it's gonna be either or. Like,
no,
it's either
the two conversations.
Sustainability or comic books. It depends. I hope you all had fun listening to this slightly different episode. I think both of us really enjoyed talking about this topic.
It's a great topic because no one's talking about it. The main thing I hope people take away from this is we're all fans of something. We've put our hands up and said that we are massive nerds, and in the past we have consumed a lot of merchandise. We hope this episode just starts more conversations on it, and that you maybe think more consciously when you do want to support a TV show or a film, how your actions of consuming it can affect the planet.
Yeah, that's a wonderful way of putting it.
I thought you were just gonna go, yeah,
that's it. That's
cool.
Good. Listen to what Beth said.
Nice.
Yeah, and we'll probably revisit this topic again down the line because, as I said, there are so many different ways to become a fan. We
definitely
like music and that area of it. So, and it's just something we can talk about for ages. In the meantime, follow us on our socials at 2 Girls, 1 Reusable Cup. We've got Twitter and Instagram. If you like hearing our voices, please share with your friends. Like us on whatever platform that you are listening us. It really helps us out a lot. Thank you for listening.
Have a lovely week, everyone.